Thank you, Nathan and Soul Notes Band. So do you believe that about yourself? Beautiful, strong enough, good enough, bright enough? Turn to somebody next to you and convince them that you believe that about yourself. Go ahead, convince them. Oh, you got really quiet. It can be difficult, can't it, to embrace those positive qualities? Or it feels a little awkward, doesn't it? And yet, don't you think the world would be a much better world, a much healthier, happier world, if we all could acknowledge, not in a boastful way, but if we could really heal ourselves and acknowledge that we each have beauty, that we each have strength, that we really are good enough. Yes, there are places we need to grow, and yes, there may still be some things that we're working through, but inherently, we are good. That's a fundamental teaching in unity, is it not? It's a fundamental teaching of unity, and when we really live out of that teaching, we begin to change, and as we change, our life changes, our relationships change, the people around us, I think, become inspired and want to know, what is it that you believe in? What is it that you know? How is it that you live? Because whatever you're doing, I want to know about it because your life seems to work better. Anyway, we've been exploring together a master's program in spirituality. You know, in the academic world, a person gets their master's because they have chosen to focus on a particular area of study and become an expert in that area of study. And it requires a tremendous amount of discipline and really concentrated attention to be able to achieve that designation of masters. And I think we can look at that as it might apply to us in terms of our spiritual growth and development. Just as we are physical beings and we have a mind and we have feelings and emotions, it is also absolutely true that we are more than just those things. We are spiritual beings. That doesn't mean it is not dependent upon religion. It is what we are inherently, naturally. We all come from the same something, the same essence, the same divinity, the same spirit. We call it many different things, but it is one, and we are an expression, an emanation of that one. Not because of anything we've done, but just because of what we absolutely are. Our journey in mastery in terms of spirituality is really a journey of opening up in consciousness, a journey of moving from a state of unawareness to a state of full and consistent awareness. And we've used models throughout this exploration together of what consciousness looks like as it begins to open up or begins to flower from a state in which we feel as if we are not awake, a state in which we feel as if life is simply happening to us. And when bad things happen, we can't figure out why they're happening. It feels like we're just a victim in the wrong place at the wrong time. And oftentimes what happens in the development of consciousness is circumstances or situations in our life, usually the painful ones, are the ones that somehow break us open. And the breaking open is not usually a very pleasant experience in the moment that we're having it. But the breaking open is also a breaking, if you will, of becoming more awake, where we begin to realize that we are not innocent bystanders or victims of life, but we have powers, we have abilities. We move from victimhood to creation. We move to a place of life is happening by me. Wait a minute, I've got some power here. I can influence my life. And we know that that's not the full measure of an awakened consciousness. We know that there is yet this idea of there is an energy and a power that we can become aware of and we can be in partnership with and begin to work together to co-create the kind of life we want. We are willing to give up a little bit of control and willing to yield to this higher purpose, this higher power, this higher plan. And then what we would call the apex or the full expression of consciousness is a consciousness that is only aware of its oneness. There is no sense of separation. There is no sense of it flowing through me. It is me. It is me and as me. There is no separation. There is no duality. In a master's program, it's important to know where you are to begin with, and we've explored together where are we in our life in terms of dealing with difficulties and challenges. Where are we in our life in terms of our relationship with God? Where are we in our life in terms of do we listen for and do we listen to that still small voice? I shared with you last week a simple but effective process for getting better at tuning into that still small voice. And it's called listening, and then it's called following, and then it's called observing the results. Or the other version of it is listening, do you remember? Not following and observing what those results are. Today I want to talk about a master's level in living and manifesting. A master's level in living and manifesting. Say that with me. A master's level in living and manifesting. There is a lot of teaching, good solid teaching in metaphysics and the branch called Unity and the branch called Science of Mind, in which we talk about the tools and the principles for manifestation. And it's not that life is about demonstrating and manifesting a whole bunch of stuff. It really is about a way of living. In fact, when we talk about unity, one of the best ways to describe unity, besides saying it is spiritual and not religious, is that it is really a way of life. It is a way of life. It is a way that we choose to live. I was with a delightful gathering of people yesterday talking about some new programs that we want to launch at the Unity Center. And one of our millennials who was part of our gathering said that she looks at unity as a lifestyle. And I think that that is a very accurate description, and perhaps even stronger than saying it is a way of life, that it is a lifestyle, which means that everything about our life is up for grabs to look at and to ask ourselves, where am I in that area of my life spiritually? Where am I spiritually in my life with terms of work, relationships, finances, health, well-being, and so forth? So manifesting from a level of mastery is manifesting in partnership with Spirit. And the way that we do that, how that is different than simply manifesting from a place of by me, is that when we manifest in partnership with Spirit, we truly understand two fundamental things. We understand what it means to let go and let God, and we understand what it means to say and live by this or something better. So again, it means that we understand and practice living from the place of letting go and letting God, and understanding what it means to say this or something better. So let's look at that a little more closely. This idea of letting go and letting God, it sounds like it's two separate things. I let go and then I let God. But really it's nuanced. It's something a little more subtle than that. It is in the letting go that I am able to let God. It is in the letting go that I am able to let God. At first service, I always share some inspirational readings, and this was one of them that I shared that really speaks to this point. When you let go, something magical happens. You give God room to work. When you let go, something magical happens. You give God room to work. So I want to share with you some examples of what that is like. What it means to let go and give God some room to work. It does not mean that we let go of what it is we would like to bring forth in our lives. Doesn't mean that we let go of that. It means we let go of the rigid control of how that is going to happen so that we can give God some room to work in and through us. And it means that we will always hold a bigger framework that says, this or something better. Say it with a little more joy, because you're second service. You can do this. This or something better, right? This or something better. So this is a true story that happened to a young man by the name of Matt. He was a junior in high school at the time, and he was the son of one of my prayer partners by the name of Mary. And Mary is a spiritual teacher. So her son grew up with spiritual principles and practices like unity and science of mind. And so Matt was a junior in high school. He came home from school one day and said, "Mom, I need $80. Well, at that time in their life, $80 was a lot of money, and there wasn't an extra $80 lying around. And so Mary said to Matt, "What do you need $80 for?" And Matt said, "Well, I need $80 to go rent a tuxedo for the junior prom." And Mary said, "Well, no, actually, you don't need $80. What you need is a tuxedo. And I think that what we need to do is have you really work on what it is that you need, which is not the $80, but the tuxedo. So how about we give this a week, and you practice seeing if you can manifest a tuxedo in that week." Can you imagine being 16 years old? What did you want your mom to do? Just give you the $80. "No, Mom, I don't want to have to practice manifesting and giving God some room to work a tuxedo in my life. I am sure God's busier than that he doesn't need whatever, to manifest a tuxedo." But Matt was a sport, and he really didn't have any choice. So, and Mary, quite honestly, would have preferred to have given him the $80 too, because she wasn't too sure how this is going to work for her son as she's trying to teach him some spiritual principle. Let go, let God, give God some room and some time to work. So a few days went by and nothing seemed to happen, and then Matt rushes home from school and says to his mom, "Mom, I had this great idea, and I've got to tell you what happened. As I was at school today, I thought, my gosh, if I'm going to manifest this tuxedo, if I'm going to give God some room to work, then I might as well just go down to the tuxedo shop and get fitted for a tuxedo." And so I did. I went and I got fitted for the tuxedo, and I figured God's abundant, I picked the best tuxedo that they had. Can you imagine what Mary's thinking at this point? The best tuxedo that they had. I got all perfectly fitted, and then they said to me, "And now we need your 50% deposit." And Matt said, "Well, I don't have it right now, but go ahead and keep my reservation. I'll figure out, I'll get it for you." And so the clerk said, "Well, the manager came in today, and he said, if we could find a young man who would be willing to wear a tuxedo to school every Wednesday from now until junior prom, we would just give him the tuxedo. So let me go see if he's willing to do that for you." Guess what Matt got? He got the best tuxedo. He got voted the best dressed young man in high school. And he did not need the $80. He needed the tuxedo, but he needed to let go of his attachment to the way to get that tuxedo was Mom was going to give him $80. He also needed to accept, we teach in metaphysics, that God's currency is divine ideas. It really was a divine idea, and I think it took some courage for a 16-year-old boy, knowing he did not have the $80, to walk into that tuxedo shop and get fitted for the best one on the rack and say, "Keep my reservation," right? So he had to listen for and to that guidance, that idea. He gave God room to work, this or something better. Another story, true one, member of our community, deeply devoted to her personal practice and her work, and very recently learned that there were some changes in the corporation she works for, and that those changes involved the elimination of her position and those that worked with her. And as we talked a little bit about this, I asked her, can you trust, can you lean into letting go, letting God, and praying this or something better? She said, "I will do my best." Now, it's one thing to talk about letting go and letting God. It's one thing to talk about this or something better when things are easy. But you know, when you're in that moment where you've just been told your job's ending, and you care about the team that works for you, and you want them to have their livelihood, then these words, then these teachings are really something that require us to stretch into, aren't they? This or something better. Of course, God's currency is divine ideas, and she knew that perhaps she needed to reach out to her network within the community and within the company and all around and say, I'm looking, I'm available, I'm eager, I'm willing. This or something better kept being the mantra that with texts and emails we kept exchanging, and she did a beautiful, beautiful job with it. A position became available. She applied for that position. Quite a few of them did not respond to her as she put the word out, but there was one who said, we think we have a position here. She was invited in for an interview. There was another person, a good friend in the company, who was even more qualified for the position. And when our member, finished the interview, she said to me, the first one went okay. The second one, I realized I have a knowledge gap, and I don't know if it's mine. And bless her heart, as we talked through that, she still held on to this or something better. Say that with me. This or something better. I know that it was holding on to that energy with her faith, this or something better, that caused the next things to happen that happened. The person that was more qualified for the job, that in some way perhaps should have gotten the job, had to drop her name out of the running because her husband got hired out of state and she had to go with him. This or something better. The letting go. What are we letting go? We're letting go of some of the fear, right? Doing our best to let it go. And have you noticed this idea of letting go is a little more like a dimmer switch than an on-off switch? Have you noticed that you can say, okay, I'm going to let it go. This thing, this fear, this worry about my job ending, here, I let it go. And then what do? It's right back again. And say, okay, I need to let it go. Let it go. Let go and let go. And then we're right. Am I the only one that does that? Do any of you? It's a practice, right? It's a consistent going back to that principle, that practice. Okay, I need to let that go and let there be some room that God can move through me, that God can work through me, that I can stay in that place that, all right, this or something better. If I really believe that this is an infinite universe, and it is, if I really believe that this is an infinite universe, if I really believe that there is one presence and one power in the universe, it is the presence and power of absolute good, then I will be able to let that go. Then I will be able to zero in on what is mine to do, and I will do those things. But I also know that I need to leave some space for magic to happen. Does this make sense? How many? Oh, good. Who said that? I like that enthusiasm. It's a practice, and it is also why community is so important. When someone says to you, I believe in you, when someone says to you, I will know this for you even in the moment that you are beginning to doubt it, I will believe in you, there is that in us that resonates with it. There is that in us that helps to step up to okay, well, maybe I have those moments of still being afraid, but I know this person believes in me and is holding the truth for me. It is often what will carry us through that most challenging or complicated situation that we find ourselves in. We really do need each other in the healthy sense of the word. So manifesting from a level of mastery is not white-knuckling mastery. It is the kind of mastery of manifestation that is able to be clear with the what and fluid and open with the how. Is able to truly, with practice, be able to say this, and I know you can do a better job of that. this or something better, or something better. There are so many more stories like this I could be sharing with you from members of our community who just moved out of San Diego after living here for 40 years in the same home and convinced that they found the most perfect house in their new neighborhood, only to find out that God had another plan for them, and you know what? It was an even better plan than the one that they had in their mind. We need to remind each other of these things. This is how I think we prepare one another for our own mastery spiritually. I will learn from you, hopefully, and you will learn from me, hopefully. So let me see if there are any other closing thoughts that I want to share with you. I've run out of time. I had a couple more stories, but I'm not going to take all of the time to do that. So I do want to wrap it up with the quote that I shared earlier and then I shared at first service. When you let go, something magical happens. You give God room to work. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to have you say it with me. When you let go, something magical happens. You give God room to work. Let's affirm it together. When you let go, something magical happens. You give God room to work. We need to own it, so we're going to change it to first person. Together. When I let go, something magical happens. I give God room to work. Turn to your neighbor, share that, and we'll finish. Go ahead. All righty, confession time. Or peer review. Peer review. Did you believe your partner? Do they need to tell it to you again? Okay, you just want the exercise over. I know you guys. All righty, namaste and happy practicing.